I'm gonna ride hard for myself, and I'm gonna say I'm a 10 out of 10, and I don't care who the has to say anything on this shit. You guys can call me ugly all you want, but you mother. Like, this question actually really bothers me. Like,
well, I mean, if let's say you're 5, let's say you're totally average, you're not particularly remarkable in any regard, and you think you're a 10. Don't you think it'd be more confident to just be like, yeah, I'm a 5? What?
I kind of want to just bounce, to be honest. So.
Seriously?
Yeah,
because
we're.
You're that triggered over this conversation?
I didn't do enough research on the podcast.
Because we're talking about rating?
Talk about people's attractiveness.
That was like a pretty tame
We
conversation.
Didn't even start.
Like, she would not have liked what I was about to say.
This is HBR News number 441. Carroll wins, or proves the woman card always wins. Taylor Swift is victimized by AI, where we discuss the news of the week and give it the Badger treatment. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Honey Badger Radio. Hope you guys are doing well this week and that you're laughing at all of this absurdity so that you are not consumed by it. Just fill in the middle somewhere. Don't worry about it. I am joined by Dr. Random McCam and Hannah Wallen, and we're going to be talking about the news of the week. It's going to be a good show, so please stick around and let us know what you think about what we discuss on today's show in the comments section. Today, we're going to be talking about, oh no, I didn't change the, oh crap. Okay, that's okay. I can do this. Today, we're going to be talking about the recent victory, the defamation lawsuit against Donald Trump that Carroll has won. We're going to be talking about a California woman who stabbed her boyfriend over 100 times, and the fact that she is not facing any jail time. And also a fellow men's rights advocate that's been like involved for a long time, David Mottershead, is now facing he's facing a restraining order, and some things about Taylor Swift that I think would, be things that I would normally not give a shit about, but here I am having to give a shit about it. So, please stick around because it's going to be a good time, and be sure to join us afterwards for the patron-only show. So, speaking of Taylor Swift, the psyop that she is, I got this article from our friend Arwa Madawi, who is it's like, at this point I'm pretty sure she is artificial intelligence that just writes articles every week, and she has an article in the Week in Patriarchy entitled, "If anyone can get the US government to take deepfake porn seriously, it's Swifties. Their collective anger over AI generated sexually explicit images of Taylor Swift may help spur changes to federal law when it comes to deepfake porn." Apparently that's the battle of our time. Not the border, not Israel and Gaza, not Taiwan, not Ukraine. Taylor Swift deepfake AI porn. So if you,
I'm convinced there's more AI on the internet than there are human beings. I think everything might be an AI. I think the world really did end in 2012, and there are no humans left. We're all just AI generated. I'm AI generated. How do I know I'm not? How do I know the world didn't come into existence 2 seconds ago with our memories already like this?
There we go.
I saw Dark City.
For Arwen Madawi to be AI, doesn't she have to be at least a little intelligent?
A little eye?
No, just very.
She's definitely artificial. I don't know about the intelligence part. I'm not sure I can say that. I've read her work, and I just don't think I can say that.
Well, if you want to know whether or not we are all artificial intelligences arguing with each other when we're actually just like brains and brain stems inside of jars in a satellite that's circling the sun somewhere, well, you have to join us in the patron show. So to become a patron, go to feedthebadger.com and set up a monthly subscription. $5 a month will get you into our Discord, where you'll be able to enjoy all of the additional content that we have, as well as lots of special community style events. There's game nights, movie nights, lots of debates, discussions, and people trying to support each other through these crazy times. I don't know how else to describe it. And we are still doing our monthly fundraiser. I really am a little concerned about meeting the goal. I think we're going to make it, but I don't know if you guys know, but on Sunday I was hosting a fundraiser, and someone, I don't know who, got into my credit card or my bank account info and my wife's info somehow, and they ordered themselves a bunch of DoorDash, like Red Lobster and Popeye's Chicken and McDonald's. So I'm glad they didn't spend everything we had, but we had to cancel our cards, and now we can't actually access our money until we get new cards, which aren't going to come till next week. So I'm kind of hoping that we make this so that I can like get it into my PayPal and use it to get us things like food and water. So if you can help us get there, that would be great. I'd appreciate it. Go to feedthebadger.com/support to help us out so that we can keep bringing you this content and also like eat and sleep and have shelter. So with all that out of the way, I think that's. Oh yeah, there's one more thing. If you don't want to wake up one morning to find that we've been yeeted from the mainstream internet, please go to badgerfeed.com. That's badgerfeed.com. That is where all of our content lives. All right, with all of that out of the way, we are now going to get into our story. So we're gonna I gotta share this with you guys. You can see it. So first, we got a follow-up. And in case you don't know, E. Jean Carroll, who is an author, artist, and weirdo, won her case. So the jury in a New York trial ordered former President Donald Trump to pay $83.3 million to E. Jean Carroll for damaging her credibility when he called her a liar after she accused him of sexual assault. The jury awarded Carroll $65 million in punitive damages, $11 million for the damage to her reputation, and an additional $7.3 million. Because why not? Cherry on top. This verdict comes after a judge ruled that Trump had defamed Carroll. By the way, by defame, it means that when he was asked whether or not he assaulted her, he said he didn't and wouldn't. So it's basically Carl, like, remember when Sargon, like, said, I wouldn't even rape you to, was it Jess Phillips? And
yeah.
This is that. Except that she's actually accusing, right? And it's worse when you deny it, apparently.
Sargon was lucky enough to have, when, What's-Her-Face took him to court.
Phillips?
No.
Oh, I know who you're talking about. I don't remember her name, though.
Yeah, and she fucked up her case by going online and saying, I'm going to ruin him. I'm going to take everything he has. She basically admitted in public that her motives were malicious.
Yes.
And that's why she lost her case.
Well, that's what you get.
Still trying to remember her name. And it was revealed at some point, I think, during the trial, that the motive behind this is to strip Donald Trump of as much money as possible to hurt his chances of getting elected, which should be at least grounds for a mistrial. But no, we're right on.
Well, we'll get to that. I have a few things to show regarding this story. So, okay, Trump is expected to appeal. This is the second time he has been ordered to pay Carroll. Last year, he was mandated to pay $5 million for a separate instance of defamation. The Trump 2024 campaign labeled the trial as a political weapon, and Trump plans to appeal, stating he disagrees with both verdicts. This decision comes as Trump is facing multiple legal challenges, including a civil trial in New York that could result in him paying at least $250 million for fraudulent business practices. And I just want to, okay, so Politico has their spin. I have this here. I'm going to share this with you guys because we're going to add some more, some more info here. So Trump lawyer Alina Habba demands details from judge on troubling allegations he mentored E. Jean Carroll's attorney. And let me play this clip. It's very short, 45 seconds.
Appeal. We will set aside that ridiculous jury. And I just want to remind you all of one thing. I will continue with President Trump to fight for everybody's First Amendment right to speak. Everybody's a right to defend themselves when they are wrongfully accused and to be able to say, I didn't do it. And to double and triple and quadruple down and say, this is wrong. This is wrong. But we are in the state of New York. We are in a New York jury, and that is why we are seeing these witch hunts, these hoaxes, as he calls them, and this is another one of them, be brought in New York, in states where they know they will get juries like this. It will not deter us. We will keep fighting, and I assure you, we didn't win today, but we will win.
All right, and then I got one other thing I want to share. So E. Carroll was on, I think it's MSNBC.
Oh God, yeah, this was.
I think this is just too good not to share. Okay, and they're talking about her victory, or at least like what the court awarded. Now, in case I should reiterate, like, because some people might not have all the context. E. Carroll's allegations are decades old. There is zero evidence of any of it, and she, as a human, like actual human trash fire walking around on two legs, is constantly saying really stupid things and putting her foot in her mouth. And there's also conflict of interest with the judge. So there's like all kinds of brazen like inaccuracies, and yet the judge is just ruled in her favor, right? So they're celebrating a victory over here on MSNBC, and the mask slips again. I will play this clip for you guys. Are you guys sharing this? Am I sharing this video with you guys right now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I've seen it already anyway.
Yeah, I know you've seen it. I figured you did, but okay, here we go.
We would like to be a part of turning our eyes to the future and taking back our rights.
She's talking about women. So she's making this about women. This is why I picked this story. It's one of the reasons. But this is this is for women's rights. This is what E. Carroll is saying, okay? These are all women on the panel here.
You've talked about using some of Trump's money.
Well, except for maybe Rachel Maddow.
To help shore up women's rights. Do you know what that might be, what that might look like?
Yes, Rachel. Yes.
Tell me.
I had such great ideas for all the good I'm going to do with this money. First thing, Rachel, you and I are going to go shopping. We're going to get completely new wardrobes, new shoes, motorcycle for Crowley, new fishing rod for Robbie. Rachel, what do you want? Penthouse? It's yours,
Nothing.
Rachel. Penthouse and France? You want France? You want to go fishing in France? No?
Because she's a dipshit.
All right, okay.
That's a joke.
That was.
That's not a joke.
This is not a joke. No, she is.
No. Okay, so that's basically. I just wanted to summarize this so you can see this is like the level of corruption we're dealing with, and yes, it's political, but I think that there's a good case to be made as to why something like this works, and it's not just because Orange Man. Okay. But anyway, I leave it to you. What are your thoughts on this story?
It's yet another black pill prediction comes to fruition, folks. We keep warning you that things are going to get worse and worse, and lo and behold, things keep getting worse and worse. The rule of law is over. It's not just on its last legs. It's a distant memory of the past in Britain and in Canada and in the USA. Those who toe the line of the uniparty can get away with anything. You can rig elections, you can start endless wars, you can genetically poison 1 billion people, and you'll be nothing but congratulated. But if you stand in the way of the uniparty and its agenda, they will accuse you of a crime with no evidence, then sue you for proclaiming your innocence, and pay off the judge, select a partisan jury. They still don't let you proclaim your innocence in the court, and then they charge you blatantly excessive fines in flagrant violation of the 8th Amendment, by the way. Any fine at all would be excessive in this case. In what way has E. Carroll had her reputation damaged at any point in these proceedings? She was nothing before this happened, and she's a celebrity now. She's being invited on TV shows where she brags about how she's going to advance women's rights by buying Rachel Maddow a fucking penthouse. And everyone just laughs about it. Isn't fraud hilarious? And then other shitheels in the MSM and even other shitheel politicians like Romney will claim that a jury found you guilty of rape, which clearly didn't happen. A jury found Trump liable for defamation because he claimed he was innocent of a crime for which he has not been charged. but they'll call you a rapist anyway. And can you sue them for saying that? Of course not. Certainly not in New York. They'll just find another corrupt judge and another corrupt jury, and they'll charge you another $83 million for punitive damages against the people who actually defamed you. So yeah, I'm not saying all is lost. I'm not saying you should Denethor yourself from a high balcony. I'm just continually warning you not to delude yourself into thinking we're so back, we're so winning. We're not. Everything has gone to shit, and it keeps sinking further into the shit. And maybe I'm not necessarily helping by making all these accurate predictions. I know for sure that all the false white pills they're not just not helping, they are actively detrimental because they give people false hope, which only results in true disappointment in the truth. Next time it looks like a bad thing might happen, right? Prepare people for the bad thing happening. It's this false sense of security that gets people sideswiped and bitten in the ass by what can otherwise easily be predicted by this ongoing downward trend. I would like white pillars and black pillars to live together in harmony, like ebony and ivory, if you will. But yeah. I never, ever hear white pillars repenting for all the false predictions they make, let alone apologizing, never mind making amends. And I'm not saying you should. Just have some fucking humility. This is why the right wing keeps losing, and it's why the left wing keeps winning. Because the right likes to make believe that they're winning, no matter how much they lose, and the left likes to make believe that they're losing, no matter how much they win. Mm-hmm. Much like men and women, respectively. As per Warren Farrell's famous quote, men's greatest weakness is their facade of strength, and women's greatest strength is their facade of weakness. And I don't expect women to snap out of this dynamic anytime soon, and I don't expect the left to snap out of it either. Why would they? It's the reason they keep winning, because it keeps them overcompensating for losses that never even happen. But please, men and right-wingers, for the love of God, stop pretending you're winning. It's why you keep losing. Bite the fucking bullet and at least entertain the notion that you are not invulnerable. On the contrary, you are far more vulnerable than the all-powerful tyrants you insist on calling weak and pathetic. So that is you being weak and pathetic. I know you don't like the sound of it. It makes you feel bad. But fuck your feelings and wake the fuck up to the clear and obvious truth. Please, I know you like to act as... you don't like to act as though you're losing, but you have to, because you are losing. So am I, by the way. I'm not. So are we. We at Honey Badger Radio have been on the business end of this void in the rule of law ever since 2015, and nobody gives a shit. Trust me, you don't want to be in the position where the courts will fuck you over and hang you out to dry, and no one even gives a shit. But it's coming. It's coming right for you if you don't buck up your ideas, bucko. All right, that's all I got.
Yeah, there are definitely some things that need to change in the way our legal system is run in the United States, and it's not just the things that we've talked about, the issue of gendered due process rights, which is a big one. That's our one of our huge issues that we talk about all the time. But we do also have an issue with judges being sort of unaccountable in general. Like, it's very hard to hold a judge accountable for misconduct, and it's very hard to hold a prosecutor accountable for misconduct. You can embarrass them in public, but only if they're not sociopaths. If the judge or the prosecutor is a sociopath, or the lawyer for the other side is a sociopath, they don't care if everybody knows that they did something completely unethical. They don't know, or they don't care if everybody knows that they violated your rights. They don't care if everybody knows that they broke the law, as long as they won, as long as they got what they wanted out of it. And in fact, if you know that they did all those things, if you know that they did something unethical, if you know that they broke the law, if they know that they violated your rights and got what they wanted, and they don't face any repercussions for it, that's good for them in their minds, because that shows how much power they have and makes you afraid of them. And that's basically the way the lower parts of our legal system are run. Every judge is a little dictator in the courtroom. And if the judge isn't dedicated, strongly dedicated to fairness and law and constitutional rights and, you know, civil rights, human rights, all of the things that should be first and foremost in a judge's mind when hearing a case, then that's what happens. That's what ends up happening. That you get unfair rulings based on the judge's personal opinions and personal interests. And the only way to fix it is that people actually do have to start standing up and filing complaints and taking the legal avenues that they have. Some judges are appointed instead of elected, and some judges are elected, and there's problems with both ends of it. Judges who are appointed often get appointed for life, and once they're appointed, it's difficult as hell to get rid of them. Judges who are elected, they're beholden to the public opinion. So if you can turn the public against a defendant, the judge is then pressured to discriminate against that defendant, even if there's evidence that the defendant is innocent. So you have pressures on both ends of it. And so the only way for us to get an actual means of getting judges to treat the public fairly is to give defendants, give people who have been in the courtroom, who have worked in the courtroom, people who have been part of the case. If you're mistreated in the context of the court case in the course of the hearing, and your civil rights are violated, you should not have a difficult path to accuse a judge of misconduct. Yeah. It should be every bit as easy to accuse a judge of misconduct as it is to accuse your next door neighbor of violating the law. And the only fail-safe against that is necessary is the same laws that protect your neighbor against being falsely accused, which should be enforced. So if you lie, that should result in criminal charges. Right? But that judges aren't going to want to do that. Politicians aren't going to want to do that, because if they corrupt a judge and then the judge gets removed because they were corrupt, then the politician looks bad, right? Yeah. So the only people that are going to be able to enforce this are you. You know, the public is going to have to campaign for changes, and this is going to have to be a catalyst. The other thing is, you know, men who are falsely accused of sexual misconduct from now on are going to have to not defend themselves publicly, but instead turn around and file defamation lawsuits against their accusers. And because it does destroy your reputation. And if this is any precedent, just saying something bad about someone who can turn around and say that their reputation was damaged is enough to qualify for defamation, even if what you say is true. So obviously, if it's not true, that should make it valid fodder for a lawsuit. So, you know, if you get accused of something that you didn't do, and your accuser takes it to police and takes it to court, sue the shit out of her. You know, do like E. Jean Carroll. Try to destroy your accuser financially, and if you get punished for that, say, no, I'm just following the advice of E. Jean Carroll. If somebody says something bad about me and it's not true, I'm gonna sue. It's defamation. And in fact, I mean, Trump ought to turn around and sue her for defamation. He hasn't been found guilty of any crime, and she's running around telling everybody that he's a sexual harasser or a rapist. He just
she's accusing
him of
far worse. Yeah, it's basically a grape accusation. I mean, obviously it doesn't have a leg to stand on. She literally ripped her story out of an episode of Law and Order, word for word. Like it's everyone, but the damage is done. So the low information normie is going to see what the news tells them, and they're just going to believe it. And this is the problem. This is like E. Jean Carroll is not even a high value woman. Like she is like old, way past her prime, a little crazy, drunk, and a degenerate basically. And she makes allegations half baked. She needs like a whole supporting cast of people to reinforce it, and yet normal people will watch it and say, yes, this is what Trump is, because the media won't give them another side.
They don't believe her. They don't believe what they are telling you. When you run into people who say Trump is a rapist, they don't say it because they think Trump is a rapist. They say it because they are on Team Democrat, and that is the only thing they have. They know.
Or just anti-Trump. You don't even have to be on Team Democrat.
Yeah, there are people that are just anti-Trump, but they know that that's not true. They know when these allegations are bullshit, they know they are spouting bullshit, right? They knew with every single false accuser that has come against him. They knew with the false accusers that went against Kavanaugh, right? They know that they are lying. They just don't have anything else.
Yeah. No, I know.
That's for some people, that's true. I think there's a nucleus, as with all these things, there's a nucleus of people who know they're lying, but they're surrounded by this impenetrable cell matter of people who actually believe the lie. Even if it started with a lie, they make themselves believe it. It's even the nucleus. It's the nature of a pathological liar is more often than not they make themselves believe it.
Yeah, there were.
They know it's not true.
Yeah, but I understand what you're saying, Hannah. But I think that people do.
I can tell you.
They will say, maybe it didn't happen, but it probably could have happened. Therefore, it happened. I've heard feminists make this argument many times.
Yeah, they'll make the arguments. There's a difference between making an argument and knowing something is true. And this is something that I've seen in American politics in particular. I don't know that it so much happens in other countries. It probably does.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure it does.
It doesn't. The truth doesn't matter to people who feel like they are supporting the greater good. The truth doesn't matter to the people who will beat you to death for your own good, right? The truth doesn't matter to people who will drown you for your own good, who will break your legs so that you can't get outside and hurt yourself, right? Those are the people that we're dealing with. They don't care what he actually did or did not do. They don't care if it's true or not. They don't care if there's 1,000 lies that they have to tell. They all know they're lying. Not just the media. I'm talking about the everyday average, like your neighbor, your family member, your friends that do this. They know that they're lying to you. They know that they're lying to themselves. They see the information that contradicts their narrative, and they deliberately, you can watch them scramble in fear for a way to reframe it to win the argument. And it's not about being right, and it's not about the truth. It's about winning the argument. It's not. This is why they're always angry, right? Because they know that they are backing a lie, and they know they are promoting lies. And when you have that cognitive dissonance where you know that everything you stand for is false, and everything that you're promoting is false, everything that you're standing on is wrong, you can't be happy. It's
No.
true misery. I have family members that do this. You probably do too.
Oh, I
Everybody
do.
that's listening does. I guarantee
Absolutely
you. And they know in their hearts, they know in the depths of their minds, it's not that far off from the surface. And they will get angry with you when you give them information that they cannot tear down, or they cannot break off, they cannot undo. Right? They'll get angry with you for that. And it is actually going to take psychological injury from,
it is psychological
changes taking
injury.
place.
Yeah.
When, you know, like, people are going to have an actual crisis of conscience in themselves to change this. And I've seen that happen in my family too. And it's an unusual person who doesn't take the hard road where they have to have so much in their face that it strips them down to nothing. And that little tiny person inside who's been going, this is a lie. Why am I saying this? Why do I believe this? Why am I so angry all the time? Is all that's left.
Yeah.
Right? That it takes a very unusual person to not get to that point. And I watched my parents go through a much less dramatic version of that between 1980 and 1984. I was a little kid, so I didn't understand a lot of it, but they were terrified when Ronald Reagan got elected the first time. It was the end of the world. We were going to have nuclear war. We didn't have a bomb shelter. They were figuring out, what are we going to do? How are we going to prepare the basement? We have a dark room. We had a dark room in the house. And they stocked up food to a degree like preppers for almost the rest of their lives after that, but as a habit, because they had started doing it then. And within a couple of years, they were going, everything we thought was going to happen, the opposite happened. Everything that, obviously they didn't have the opposite of nuclear war yet. Like, it took a while before the Soviet Union crumbled, but every prediction that was made that they were afraid of just turned out to be catastrophically wrong in terms of their political beliefs. And by 1984, they were Republicans. Now, they went from one side of the uniparty to the other, but they figured things out. And so I know that it can happen. Didn't work on my grandpa. Like, he was angry, and he never stopped being angry about politics. He was angry about politics when he was 95 years old. And passed away at 95. Like, so some people don't. Some people never figure it out.
Yeah, I know.
But it takes a crisis of conscience where you have to, first you confront that everything you were expecting to happen turned out to be wrong. And then you have to confront that you've been voting based on false information for your whole life. And it's tough. And you have to be able to be tough. And there's a lot of people that have done it with Trump. There's a lot of people that did it with Reagan. And I think that if he gets a second term, if Trump gets a second term, there will be more people that this will happen with. So,
well, I'm going to give Mike a chance to say something, and then I want to give my final thoughts on this. But go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, on the subject of deliberate lying that he was talking about, a similar thing went on, and I guess still goes on the subject of giving children a certain jab. The initial argument is, all right, the children don't get sick from the disease, but they can transmit the disease, so we need to give them the jab anyway. And because they're not used to talking to someone who doesn't go along with the lies, you then say, right, but the jab doesn't prevent transmission. And then you watch their faces go blank as the cogs in their mind go, and they go, what? No, I guess I guess it doesn't prevent transmission, but they still need it because they can get sick from it. And you're like, but you just said that they don't.
Mm-hmm.
So they just flip from one lie to another because they weren't prepared for a conversation with someone who doesn't go along with the lies. And anger doesn't come into it. They're just confused. They're just trying to make sure everyone gets this jab, and they don't. I don't think they even know they're lying. They obviously are lying. They're deliberately saying things that they know are not true, but they don't see it as lying. They see it as
the ends justify the means.
They don't admit
as the greater good. Yeah.
They don't admit that it's lying, and that's why I say when they think they're supporting the greater good, they will lie about anything, and they will not admit that it's.
They will think that lie is part of a larger truth. But I okay.
The kind of person that will not get into a loop of self-contradiction and think that wins you the argument.
Yeah. Well, you need to like let your ego die and embrace some humility. So the one thing I will say about this is that this is psychological torture. This is not just about trying to keep Trump occupied. It's not just about destroying his reputation. It's not just about trying to drain him of money so that he can't campaign. All of those things are true, but it is also about damaging his psyche. When a man, this is something that people need to understand. There is no man on earth that is not affected by false accusations. And even if they know for a fact that they didn't do it, it affects the way everyone acts around them. Unless Trump is surrounded by the most committed people, it's going to eat away to him in the same way that it did to Kavanaugh, in the same way it did to Johnny Depp, and in the same way that it does to any man, any normal man who faces that. Like Mark Pearson didn't even touch that woman, and it was torture for him. So this is something that we have to also understand. Okay. I know that some people don't like Trump. I don't give a fuck what you think about him. This is a person that has been falsely accused, and the people are jeering and smiling and laughing and joking about it. They are happy about it. This is the kind of shit women can do to men. They can do this. It doesn't matter how powerful you are. It doesn't matter if you're Johnny Depp. It doesn't matter if you're Donald Trump. It doesn't matter if you're Brett Kavanaugh. It doesn't matter. They can do this to you, and there will be people that are willing to come out of the woodwork to support them doing this to you. So, and I don't think the legal system can even help, because the judges, like the judge in this case, she had a close, like there was a conflict of interest between her and E. Jean Carroll, which is why because this wasn't like a case with a jury. This was a judge, and the judge voted in favor, or she ruled in favor of E. Jean Carroll because there is a conflict of interest there. And they don't care. They're doing it brazenly in the open. And I think that this is a point that can't be driven home hard enough. In a way, you could argue that this is what happens when you put women in positions of power over people without any like recognition of their agency, of the fact that they could use it for corrupt purposes. And they're doing that. And the other thing I want to say about this is that I would suggest, or I would say that the only way to fight against this is to not be overly optimistic, but vigilant, and make sure that people know and support anyone who is facing this stuff, even if you disagree with them politically. So I'm sorry, but I am done dealing with people who have problems with Trump. I don't even want to hear anybody say, I'm not a big fan. I don't want to hear that shit. This guy is getting dragged through the mud in every possible, he might even end up being assassinated. Not kidding. I don't want to hear that. All I want is, this is unjust. Something has to be done. That's it. That's my position. No more of this pussyfooting around. No more of this, if I like that guy, somebody might. No, fuck that. This is wrong. This shouldn't happen. E. Jean Carroll should be in prison. She should be in prison. And he is going to fight, and he can go after her for money or whatever. I understand that there was I saw, just as a little bit of a silver lining, I watched a clip from another podcast where there are these like financial experts. Like they're like, big Wall Street guys. They know about investing. They know about legal stuff, and they're talking about this E. Jean Carroll thing. And one guy said that Trump is going to file for appeal. E. Jean Carroll is not going to be able to afford. He's basically going to be able to spend more money on fees than she can, and he's not going to give her a cent of that money. And so it's in a way, this could be just another headline. Like, they're doing this for the headline. Oh, look, Trump lost this suit. Oh, look, Trump is broke. Oh, look, right? This guy, he's no longer viable. This is all part of that it's a big gaslighting thing, so that because the main point of this is to demoralize regular Americans that are would support anything other than what we have now. They want regular gas prices. They don't want foreign wars being fought all over the globe. They want the border closed. These are not right-wing things. This is common sense shit. Common sense. And the only person that's proposing that is this guy. And they want to stop him. What does that tell you about these people? So yeah, let's stop. Let's just stop and support the guy, because what's happening is unjust, period. Full stop. Point blank. That's it. That's all I got. All right. Thank you.
I will point out one thing.
Yeah.
If you are a human rights activist of any type, men's rights, women's rights, racial issues, poverty issues, anything, then the fact that you like or don't like someone cannot be a factor in whether you care about an injustice happening to them or how you judge that injustice, right?
Yeah, that's called a cult of personality, a negative cult of personality. If
you judge a situation,
that's a good song, by the way,
based on how you like someone, and it's a human rights situation or a civil rights situation, due process, fair treatment in court, discrimination in employment, anything along those lines, being able to vote when you have the right to vote, and so on. And you say, well, I don't like this person or this group of people, and therefore, that alone takes away my consideration for their rights. Then you are one of the bad guys, right? Mm-hmm. You're one of the people who would have supported the Holodomor. You're one of the people that would have supported the Holocaust.
Or at least stood by while it happened and didn't say anything.
Would have supported, right? If you can be okay with human rights violations and civil rights violations because you don't like someone, you are one of the people who would have supported every atrocity throughout history that has been committed by totalitarian governments. This is the thing that allows them to happen.
Yeah.
The public deciding that, well, it's okay to do bad things, to do cruel things, to do human rights violating things to this person or this group of people because we don't like them.
Yep. Okay, I'm going to read some super chats. That was kind of the main story, although I do want to talk about Taylor Swift later. But let's look at the super chats and then move on to the next one. But thank you for your thoughts, and I look forward to you guys' comments. Richard Bier gives us $5 and says, was wondering just quickly, she's would wind up broke after such a windfall. Well, she's not going to get the money, though. So, like, when you're awarded money, it's not like there's a check waiting outside the courthouse.
What did I just say? Don't fucking white people.
No, I'm just saying, like, I think that he can make her spend money faster than she gets it, but we will see. I'm not pushing the white pill, but I'm asking people to be vigilant.
They could just steal $83 million from his account.
Yeah, or George Soros can sign a check. I know,
I was gonna say there is some evidence.
That they can get financiers and shit involved. I know.
There is some evidence that her lawsuit is already being funded by
probably
some political pundit.
I mean, I don't think she has the wherewithal to know what the hell day it is. Okay, so anyway, have you heard about that woman who stole $100 million from the U.S. Army by any chance? Apparently, even a criminal conviction wouldn't disqualify her from receiving her government employee pension, but the Facebook thief has been upstaged, though. I remember reading about that a little bit, but it didn't stay in my psyche because I have other things on my mind. And then Richard gives another 5. Huh?
It kind of disappeared from the news cycle really quickly.
Yeah, I remember it briefly popping in.
Like embarrassed.
Yeah. And Richard Beer gives another 5 and says, "Isn't this similar to the evidentiary standards of the Salem witch trials? I bet that those actually had much higher standards." I bet.
They had pinpricks and stuff that, you know.
At least there was something
an injury. This other person must have caused it. With defamation, you just have to say, and especially with harassment, you just have to say you were injured. You just have to say that you were in fear. This person.
He's got to watch Law and Order.
Yeah.
Richard Bier gives us another 5 and says, "Do you remember? Oh shit. Do you remember doing the exercise where you were supposed to choose who you were going to allow into the bomb shelter because a miscalculation resulted in the shelter being able to support half of the protected population, and you had to choose who would be allowed in and who would be rejected for entry?" No, I'm not aware of this hypothetical.
We did not do that at my school. I remember hearing about that. It's one of those things that a lot of parents got very upset that students were asked that. And really, it's not something that you should inflict on kids anyway.
No.
But, you know, it's one of those things that as adults, you know, you think about stuff like that because you just do. But
it's like the trolley problem.
Yeah, you don't ask kids to decide life or death questions like that. It's just not something. It's abusive to ask kids to make decisions like that. You give them nightmares for the rest of their lives.
Yep. Okay, I got one last super chow, and this is a big one. Telemnar gives us 100. I think is that to support the fundraiser, because that's massive. So thank you so much. And he says for that, "Hello to the good doctor. I am sending this message to compliment you on your work as an artist, and I do mean work. I have some idea of how much."
You know, I have a PayPal of my own. You could have sent $100 to that.
Yeah, you could have just sent it to Mike directly.
I want the HBR fundraiser to do well. I need these people.
But if you like Mike, you should help him. I have some idea of how much effort it takes to create the sorts of things you do. I am also glad to see that you are becoming more confident on streams rather from a cautious beginning. For anyone who is not familiar with his work, I recommend Gender on his YouTube channel. It is 6 years old, but still very topical. Actually, all of those songs are still great. I did a thing on...
I try and create work that's as timeless as possible, despite being of its time. And we don't know how long this is timely.
No, these things have aged. It's all aged very well. I did a stream on the gaming channel. It's Honey Badger Arcade, where I watched this Gamergate documentary, because Gamergate will be 10 years old this year. And I opened it up with Mike's song, his video, Progress, which is one of my favorite songs. I don't know why, but that's just a good one.
Pachelbel's
so
Cannon, you can't go wrong with Pachelbel's Cannon.
Yeah, it's a good one. Anyway, so let me see. It is 6 years old, but still very topical. We are in the era of the never-ending current year, after all. The psychological pain Hannah is referring to here is effectively getting red-pilled by another name. In spite of what the very cynical Mangaka92 said in the chat, there is a bit of an increase in the general society of people figuring out that things are not what they seem. If enough people get there and start influencing those in power, or better yet, becoming those in power, there might be some improvement. See Millier, or the anti-feminists in South Korea. Well, those guys have been fighting in South Korea for a long time. I don't know how well that's working out, though. I'm still, like, trying to get in touch with a guy who lives in South Korea to give me, like, a clue. But as you can imagine, the time gap is a problem. So, and I originally wrote progress instead of improvement before I reread it and decided to use a less loaded term. All right, thank you, Telemnar, so much for that very thoughtful message. And I think that's it. So we'll move on to the next story. Let us know what you guys think about this one in the comments. All right, so let me just put it on the screen here. Whoop. Bryn Speicher, a California woman who fatally stabbed her boyfriend Chad O'Melia over 100 times during a cannabis-induced psychosis, has been sentenced to 2 years of probation. The incident occurred in 2018, and Speicher was convicted of involuntary manslaughter. The defense argued that she had an adverse reaction to marijuana, leading to a cannabis-induced psychotic disorder. The sentencing decision drew sobs of relief from Speicher, I'm not sure how you say it, and her family, but faced criticism from the victim's father, who claimed it set a dangerous precedent. The judge, David Worley, defended the decision, stating it was the right and courageous thing to do. Very brave.
Remember that name. And I mean David Worley, by the way, not Speicher, which is a fucking ironic name for someone who had too much drugs. And yeah, I wonder how many people have reacted to this story by going, well, that's why cannabis should be illegal.
I've never heard of anybody flipping out on cannabis. There had to be some other substance involved.
And I have to go, well, hey, does alcohol ever make people go violently crazy? No. And stop changing the subject anyway. I mean, I would put it to you that stabbing someone 100 fucking times is what should be illegal, but hey, I guess I'm some kind of misogynist. The point is, no man would ever be acquitted of a violent crime or any crime on the grounds that he was drunk at the time, or stoned at the time, or on magic mushrooms at the time. I'm sure a lot of you remember that one feminist man, that one skeptic feminist man who shall remain otherwise unnamed, who went to prison for murdering his girlfriend in the first degree by shooting her once, I think it was, maybe twice. And a lot of people tried to excuse it by claiming it was because he was under the influence of psilocybin mushrooms. But that changed nothing with regard to his sentencing. For all we know, it was a lie. And he was actually stone cold sober when he did it. We don't know. The point is, when it's a woman or a male feminist, that person is high enough in the progressive stack for the uniparty to reach for any explanation other than the usual, identity politics. If we can call a murderer an MRA, such as a certain supreme gentleman, we'll call him an MRA, even if he's never heard of such a thing as an MRA existing. But if he's a feminist, an explicit feminist who is explicitly anti-MRA, well, we can't use identity politics against it, and that's where drugs come in handy as a convenient scapegoat, whether they're legal drugs or not, provided they are the kinds of drugs of which any given person does not approve. Caffeine, by the way, the world's most popular and least controlled mind-altering substance, does nothing but cause anxiety and general skittishness. But you'll never hear caffeine blamed for someone's paranoid, delusional, violent crimes. Unless it's a woman or a feminist. But consider this another one of my black pill predictions. At some point, a female feminist, registered Democrat, BLM supporting Antifa thug is going to kill a man by slowly severing his head with an ice pick and then eating it. And a jury will find her not guilty because she's a coffee drinker. And our good friends, the World Economic Forum and their cronies, are going to be right on board with it, given their recently announced agenda to crack down on coffee because it's a form of ecocide or fucking whatever. And all the people who've been cheering on for the prohibition of all the drugs they don't like will suddenly do a 180 double take when it's their drug of choice being targeted by the smear merchants. In case you didn't know, caffeine is a deadly drug. It can indeed kill people. There was one guy who mistook his pure caffeine powder for his protein shake powder. He dumped out half an ounce of the stuff into a receptacle and he necked it, and he died in what I can only imagine was a level of fear and panic that no one would wish on their worst enemy. You think Cocaine Bear was bad. But I don't think caffeine should be illegal. I think people should be trusted not to be stupid enough to do that. Meanwhile, cannabis and its two active ingredients, THC and CBD, do not kill people. No one has ever discovered an LD50 that would even kill a mouse. Now, that doesn't mean it's harmless. It can indeed result in a psychotic episode if taken in large enough doses by someone who already has schizophrenic proclivities. It can exacerbate those symptoms. But it generally only happens with prolonged use, or like I said, in unfeasibly large doses in someone with schizophrenic proclivities. Even if that does explain this woman's actions, which I don't for a second believe it does. I think this is just a violent murderer and a corrupt piece of shit simp of a judge looking for any excuse to let a woman literally get away with murder. But even if this is one of those rare cases of like a sleeper cell schizophrenic being snapped by a psychedelic, at the very least, she belongs in a mental institution. That's typically what we do with violent schizophrenics. Even if they're not responsible for their own actions, they're still effectively just as dangerous as someone who is. If weed is all it takes for you to accelerate from 0 to 100 brutal stabbings, then you belong in a straitjacket. Like, even if it's PCP, that's still no excuse. Most people, when they take PCP, just stay at home, dancing their asses off and going nuts by themselves. If it causes you to go running through the streets, clubbing police officers to death with a chair leg, that's on you. And if you're a man, it is on you, legally, every fucking time, no exception, in any court, in any land. I know this rant of mine has been mostly about drugs, but anyone in their right mind can see this story is about a gynocentric, two-tiered justice system that will always throw anyone and anything under the bus except women. They will make anything illegal except a woman committing a crime, especially a crime against a man. Meanwhile, there are people out here who are just living a better life through chemistry, minding our own business with our coffee and our weed, which I would never do because I don't do illegal things, how dare you, and we're doing no harm to anyone. Leave us the fuck alone. We didn't do this. Your fucked up justice system did this by letting women get away with anything. If anyone should be held accountable, it's this woman and this fucking judge.
Yep.
Bandits, all of you. All right, I'm gonna go drink more coffee while I still can.
You know, I remember a news story not too long ago, not too many years ago, at least not from the perspective of someone who's been watching news stories like this since the 80s, where a guy committed a crime under the law. He was the crime was being too drunk to recognize when the person who had consented to sex with him was too drunk to consent. Right, that was his crime. But if he'd been female, he'd also have been too drunk to consent. Right, was convicted, and then a judge who agreed with his testimony gave him 6 months in jail. He wasn't convicted of rape; he was convicted of sexual assault. And feminists got so mad about the short sentence that he didn't get longer time in jail. He was given 6 months, he served 3 months, and then he went home. And that they actually got the judge removed from his position. And then they came here to Ohio when he came home and patrolled a neighborhood full of completely innocent people that had nothing to do with the case, right? While carrying the types of guns that people on their side of the political fence have argued for years should be illegal. because citizens apparently shouldn't have the right to arm themselves, wandered around a residential neighborhood full of other people that had nothing to do with this guy and his case, with those guns, being a threat in that neighborhood, because 3 months isn't long enough for somebody to serve for a crime like that, despite having been too drunk to consent himself, too drunk to appraise his actions when the crime was committed. None of them are speaking up about this case. Not one word. They don't care. Because it was a woman who got away with being too high to appraise her actions when she committed a violent crime that caused a person's traumatic death. Feminists don't care about equality. They don't care about accountability, for sure. If it's a woman's accountability, they just care about hating men and taking away men's civil rights, taking away men's human rights, the right to fair treatment in court, and equal consideration under the law. Can you guys still hear me?
Yeah. It was just for some reason.
Okay.
I don't know if it was my machine, but
I heard oh, and I thought, oh crap, they can't hear me.
Yeah,
but no, they don't care about anything of that. They only care about hurting men. And that's all that you'll get out of this from feminists. If you bring this up to feminists, they will tell you that it's a fluke. They'll come up with any excuse they can to not pay attention to it. They'll make excuses for her, but they won't admit that it's just as bad when a woman gets away with a crime that well, it's because she was too high or too drunk. Right? When a woman gets away with something terrible like this, and has no real recourse, against her, like society has no recourse against her, the victim's family has no recourse. The victim just basically got spit on by the court. You don't matter. What happened to you doesn't matter. You're just a man, and this is a woman who was she had an excuse. Like, it doesn't matter what it was. A woman with an excuse is a woman with an excuse, right?
Yep.
And they don't care. Feminists do not care. Again, they know they're lying. They know this is bullshit. They know that they are being hypocritical in regard to these cases. They don't care because they actually hate men. Their religion is about hating men. They are malevolent. They support this kind of thing. And they will tell any lie they need to in order to maintain it.
Yep.
By the way, I just remembered. A couple of months ago, I happened to be on a train and I picked up a copy of the Metro. And there was an article in page... It was a few pages in, and the headline was Matthew Perry found to have died from the acute effects of ketamine. And I read this thinking, whoa, that's crazy, because that's never happened before. Ketamine is another one of those drugs that has no known LD50. No one's ever died just from the acute effects of ketamine by itself. And I read down this article, and by the third paragraph, sure enough, there's this sentence, with drowning as a contributing factor.
Yeah.
Drowning.
He just drowned a little bit, but it was most. It was most. No, he fucking drowned. You don't just drown a little bit. But yeah, journalists do this all the time. It's been the same ever since the days of the fucking reefer madness. They just can't help themselves. Like if they can blame a drug for something, they'll blame a drug. Rather than what clearly happened. He died indirectly because an enormous amount of ketamine was found in his system when they did the autopsy or whatever. And he took a stupid amount of ketamine and then went in his hot tub, and yet ketamine can make you lose consciousness and lose motor functions. So yeah, he died indirectly because of ketamine, and that does happen, just like it happens with alcohol. You can drink so much that you get into an accident, but alcohol can also kill you just by its own acute effects. Everyone knows that. But yeah, again, I'm not saying ketamine is without its dangers. It can make you lose motor functions so much that you're very likely to get into an accident. I've never taken ketamine because it's illegal. But it's like I say, journalists can't help themselves. They would rather blame a drug than
the woman.
I mean, it's a tranquilizer, isn't it?
Yeah, it's remarkably difficult to explain the effect ketamine has. Not that I would know, because I would never do it because it's illegal. But yeah, it's related to PCP actually.
That's great. Well, that's not. So those lidocaine gels that you can get for sunburn and stuff at the store, like the blue aloe that you get for putting on after a sunburn, and now the patches, the lidocaine patches, 4% are over the counter and 5% are prescription. Those are legal as well. Comes from the same plant that cocaine is made out of. So like drugs can have profoundly different effects on an individual, and so that's not, it doesn't say a lot that it's related. But yeah, tranquilizers, if I remember right, that's a tranquilizer used by veterinarians on animals, which doesn't necessarily mean that it can't be used on people. There's actually a lot of drugs that are used on both people and animals. Penicillin is one of them. And penicillin can be very dangerous to people if you have an allergy to it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, drugs, depending on the individual and depending on how they're used, can have different effects as well. But you're right, the media will, it's the same thing as COVID. Like when my dad passed away, and when my mom passed away, my dad and I were in talking to the funeral director, and one of the things that he was dealing with was death certificates that cited COVID as the cause of death for causes of death that were obviously not. Like, there was a guy that was decapitated in a motorcycle accident who had tested positive for COVID. And so the COVID was listed as his cause of death. And he had to send the certificate back. He's like, when you're decapitated, that's the cause of death. It's not because you had a cold. It's not because you had an illness, right? So there were incidents, and we don't know how many. I'm not saying it was prevalent or anything like that, because I heard about that one incident from the funeral director when we were talking about that, because my mom died with COVID pneumonia, and so we were talking about what is going to be the cause of death on her death certificate, because she also had sepsis, and like she'd had a massive surgery before death. Well, this with the media and deaths that occur while a person is using drugs, or crimes that occur while a person is using drugs, they just ignore everything else, every other factor. That, if the person had a mental illness, if the person had committed other crimes before, if the person was known to be violent, or so on. Well, none of that stuff is relevant because pot, right? None of that stuff is relevant because other drug. And frankly, Gen Xers should be immune to this. We should be tired of it, because we watched it our whole lives. We grew up with this kind of lie being told to us over and over and over again. And we know it's all bullshit. we've known it's all bullshit for probably, 30 or 40 years, depending on how old you are. And so this shouldn't be surprising. Like, oh, we're going to blame the drug, not the woman. But
yeah, that's ultimately
it's a woman makes it more likely, right?
Mm-hmm.
Women getting away with things.
Exactly. And she did, because she's not going to see any jail time. So I got some super chows. I'm going to read those really quick. Richard B. Air gives us $5 and says, straight out of the propaganda movie Reefer Madness. Thank you for that. Yeah. And Meredith G, the top G, gives us $5 and says, HBR News number 441. Does anyone realize how exhausting it would be to stab someone 100 times? How the F does anyone come to the conclusion that this was a drug-induced violence? Maybe 20 times, but not 100, and not on pot. Well, Meredith knows something about how tiring it is to stab someone 100 times. Taking notes.
Well, I mean, if you've ever had to cut up raw meat before you cooked it, you kind of know.
Yeah.
We're made of raw meat, technically, when it comes to
and then Richard B. Air again gives us $5 and says, there is a company that advertises a ketamine protocol for depression. Seen their ads on YouTube. They refer to it as psychedelic therapy.
Mm-hmm.
Hey man, you ever
That's
done
actually
DMT?
becoming a thing. They're also talking about using the main ingredient, the substance in shrooms that is psychedelic for people with depression. I've been watching this stuff because I think I've talked about it before. One of my diagnoses historically has been depression, and I've always kind of poo-pooed it. And then I found out there's a gene for it, and I have the gene. I've always kind of poo-pooed it, but at the same time, I was suicidal for about 20 years. So obviously there's a contradiction there. I'm not depressed, but I am suicidal. But I'm not now, so don't anybody get all scared.
Okay.
I came to terms with that for years ago. I can't too many people in my life depend on me for things that it would be disastrous if I just disappeared.
Yeah, it is a good motivator to stay alive.
Yeah, I love too many people to. That's the thing about for a lot of people, it may not work for everybody because not everybody's reason is the same, but I would say my cure was loving other people, not being loved by other people, being needed by people that I love, right?
Yeah.
But with a lot of people, in terms of depression, it is actually chemical. Their brain doesn't produce enough of this or that, or the way selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors are supposed to work is they think that your brain cleans up your serotonin. This is really a simplistic explanation, so don't shoot me if you're in the business, but they think your brain cleans up your serotonin before it gets a chance to detect and use it to actually change your mood. And so those slow that process down, and it keeps you from developing this undercurrent of anxiety that causes depression. But if you don't need them, it really fucks you up. But yeah, all of this with these drugs, again, they want to demonize this stuff, but in fact, there are actually good uses for a lot of these, and this kind of thing might hinder putting to use. Cannabis has tons of valid uses that we haven't been able to use it for like most of Gen X's life, because it's been illegal and it's been demonized and it's been exaggerated how it affects people. So
yeah. All right, well, let us know what you guys think about this one in the comments. We really got to move on. We got 2 more stories to get to. So let us know what you guys think in the comments. We're going to move on to the next story. So one of our own is in the news. Men's rights activist David Motorshead, I hope I'm not butchering that, and I apologize, or Motorshed, one of those, has been given a 5-year restraining order after being cleared by a jury of harassing barrister and women's rights campaigner, feminist, Dr. Charlotte Proudman on Twitter. Motorshed was convicted of having a lock knife when questioned by police and received a suspended 20-week prison term. The prosecution claimed that he targeted Dr. Proudman with threatening language and images, causing her to fear violence. The defense argued that Motorshead did not direct the messages at the lawyer, and he claimed not to have intended to threaten her. The judge imposed the restraining order to protect Charlotte Proudman. You guys know Motorshead? I mean, he's like my friend on social media, I'm pretty sure, at least.
Just want to point out for people outside of the UK, that's a pocket knife. He was convicted of having a pocket knife. And
can't have those in the UK unless you convert to the Nation of Islam.
Americans are all going, a pocket knife? Like, seriously, a pocket knife? Yes. So he was convicted of having, and it wasn't related to anything. Like, lots of people carry around a pocket knife, especially if you have, you know, one of those Swiss Army knives with little tools in it. A lot of guys carry that. I have a pocket knife, actually. Like, I actually have a little keychain pocket knife that I carry because every so often you get something and you're out in public and you want to open it and you need a blade or something to cut through plastic or to cut through one of those little zip ties. So this is to be convicted of having a pocket knife. To an American, that sounds insane, just absolutely insane, right? But as soon as you're accused of something, even though pocket knives are tools that are completely innocent and are not intended to be used as weapons that you carry it around because you have malicious intent. No, they're just a thing that you carry around so that you have something you can use if you need to get into something that you have a right to get into, like an item that you just bought, right? But as soon as you get accused of something, now it's dangerous. And I just want to point out here, he was told, you're innocent, you did nothing wrong, you did nothing illegal, but we're going to punish you anyway because woman. So the last story was a woman who can get away with fatally stabbing someone, and not just stabbing someone, but stabbing someone over and over again to the degree that it would have been exhausting and painful for both parties. Like, he had to be dead long before the stabbing was over, just from shock. And she got probation. And that was it. She was let off, basically. And here we have a guy who is not guilty of harassment, did nothing directly to the individual who accused him, is not guilty of any crime, and has done nothing wrong, but he's facing a restraining order.
Dr. Charlotte Proudman is Dr. Charlotte Proudman, in case you don't know, she's a feminist.
Is she
that
a
sort of
physician?
No, she's a sociology. She's a doctor of sociology. I'll bring up her Twitter and I will share it.
I'm just going to point out, like, it's an honorarium, that title, when you're talking about someone with a PhD.
Doctor anything seems phony
right?
as fuck nowadays.
But when the PhD is in something like sociology, it's even more fake, right? If you were a PhD chemist, that'd be a different story. If you had a PhD in criminal justice, I'm sure that exists, or in public education, or anything like that. That might be a little respectable, but I just don't. A PhD in sociology in a feminist who is it's obvious that she probably went through and most of her classes were women's studies, and she doesn't actually know any facts. It's all conjecture.
She's kind of known. I know, I've seen her on like panels and stuff. Dr. Charlotte Proudman. Her Twitter page says Advocate of the Year
or anything. Then
yeah, Women in Law Awards, Family Law, Cambridge academic, founder of Right to Equality, which is another page, I guess. And then there's a quote on her page, I guess by her. She quotes herself, and it says, "Women in the public eye who challenge male violence often suffer the very same abuse." So she's kind of the kind of person that you'd probably end up debating as an MRA.
Yeah, I think, if I remember right, she's one of the feminists that has me blocked. She can't do anything to me because I'm not from her country.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
but no, she's a moron in my opinion. I've seen people post screenshots of her tweets and everything, and this is an instance where I can understand why she cried harassment, because she doesn't have anything else. She doesn't have any valid arguments. She can't counter anything the individual says that she's targeting, right? She can't prove him wrong, because he's not wrong, and he can prove her wrong, and that just can't stand. So as a feminist, she is going to do the next best thing and call proving her wrong harassment, because that's what they do. And so of course it's expected that a feminist would behave this way. It's just remarkable in terms of this needs to be discussed. Remarkable, not in terms of, big surprise. Remarkable that the justice system would turn around and impose a penalty on someone who was found innocent of the allegation. Oh, we know you didn't do what you're accused of doing, but a restraining order is an order anyway. We're going to put a restraining order on you. And it'd be different if a restraining order was just the court saying, leave this person alone and don't bother them, and there were no other repercussions involved, right? Where there's nothing like your employer can find out there's a restraining order and use that against you when it comes to your pay or promotions or so. Well, this is a guy that has a criminal history. Look, there's a restraining order, but they can. It's public information that there's a restraining order, especially if it's been reported in the media. That means now that you have a reputation for having had to have a restraining order against you to keep you away from this woman and to keep you from talking to her. And I don't know how much she can enforce this, but if she's offended by something he says now, even if it's not directed at her, can she treat that like harassment? Because if she can, then it's a restraining order that's effectively used to silence a human rights advocate. But on top of that, a restraining order can be used to prevent you from moving around in various areas. If you go to a public place or a public event and the individual that you're restrained from being around is there, you have to leave. And if you show up there and that person can prove that you showed up while they were there, even if you do the right thing and leave, they can accuse you of following them there. Even if there's no evidence that you knew they were there and went there because they were there, you can still get in trouble for being there. You can still get locked up for being there. And the only exceptions to that are if they come to your house or if they come to your workplace during your scheduled time at work. So you're basically screwed in terms of freedom of movement. You're basically screwed in terms of freedom of speech. And you may also have other repercussions. I don't know, in the UK, people aren't allowed to have, spoons practically. So it's not like you can lose the right to your weapons. But in the US, if somebody has a restraining order on them and they're an individual that owns guns, those guns will be confiscated, or they have to put those guns into a trust. Same thing with any other weapon that is strictly a weapon. Like, you might not have to give up your kitchen knives, but if you happen to be a collector of, say, historical swords, or things like bayonets, or anything else of interesting decorative significance or interesting historical significance that's a weapon, you know, judge may turn around and say, well, you can't have those because there's a restraining order and you're considered a threat. You're dangerous, right? A restraining order can cause you to lose certain types of jobs because you've now had a strike against you and you're considered a threat, a dangerous person. I don't think you can even be a massage therapist in the United States if you have a restraining order. Like, there's actually, you have to have a very clean slate to be a massage therapist. So it can interfere with that. If you're a cop, it can interfere with your ability to be a cop because you can't carry your weapons. Right? So this isn't just a slap on the wrist. This is a punishment and a proclamation to the public that you are a threat, that you are dangerous, that you are guilty of something, even if it's not that crime.
Yeah.
So it is you know, like, people are like, well, it's just a restraining order. There's no just a restraining order.
No.
Right. It is state defamation of character.
It
It
is.
is
a mark against
limitations on your freedom of movement, your freedom of speech, and your choice in employment. Right? Your ability to defend yourself. It is egregious that this happened. And I hope it is a criminal record. I hope that there's an opportunity to appeal that and get it removed, because this is shameful that this was done. A restraining order imposed on somebody who is found to have not done anything wrong. That is
internet
insane.
crimes.
Yeah.
Social media crimes and misdemeanors. Anyway, let us know what you guys think about that one in the comments. Do you know David Motorist Head? I'm sorry, David. I know you. I probably met you at ICMI. Anyway, we're hopefully this isn't going to be too serious. Let us know what you guys think about this in the comments. We're going to move on to the final story. Weird. I never thought I'd be talking about it, but Taylor Swift is in the news. So fans of Taylor Swift are outraged. There's actually a two-part thing. There's two things that I want to say with Taylor Swift. Fans of Taylor Swift are outraged after being the last ones to discover that online perverts have been using AI text-to-image models to generate lewd images of their goddess queen. The Swifties, as they are called, were quick to try and protect the honor of their chosen deity by starting awareness campaigns on Twitter and /X, reporting all lewd images found, attempting to clog up the search results so that they would come back as non-pornographic, and even contacted the police. The police! However, many fans were absolutely shocked to discover that there exists no such federal law within the US barring the creation of smut via AI. But the Swifties have found an unlikely ally that wants to change that. Joseph D. Morell, a U.S. representative for the state of New York, is pushing a bill, probably isn't going to go through, but we'll see, that he hopes will change that. Morell said in a statement concerning his, quote, Preventing Deepfakes of Intimate Images Act, end quote. Imagine writing that and keeping a straight face. In it, it says, quote, We're certainly hopeful that Taylor Swift news will help spark momentum and grow support for our bill, which, as you know, would address her exact situation with both criminal and civil penalties, end quote. The Biden administration is also taking the matter very seriously, with White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre stating, quote, We are alarmed by the reports of the circulation of images that you just laid out, of false images to be more exact, and it is alarming. While social media companies make their own independent decisions about content management, we believe they have an important role to play in enforcing their own rules to prevent the spread of misinformation and non-consensual intimate imagery of real people, end quote. And in completely unrelated news, the Biden administration is reportedly desperately seeking an endorsement from Taylor Swift. California governor and staunch Biden supporter Gavin Newsom stated, quote, Taylor Swift stands tall and unique. what she was able to accomplish just in getting young people activated to consider that they have a voice and that they should have a voice in the next election, I think is profoundly powerful." End quote. This endorsement seeking arrives on the heels of a poll conducted by Redfield and Wilton Strategies. The poll discovered that nearly 1 in 5 voters say they would be more likely to vote for a candidate that was endorsed by Taylor Swift. And yet in other news, there is a rumor that Swift could toss out an endorsement of Biden during Super Bowl. What is that? 43? I'm like, Roman numerals are hard. And there was one other thing too.
L is 50. L is 50. V-I.
Oh, it's an L. It's an L. Okay, yeah. So 58. 58. Okay. Sorry. Holy crap. It's been that many Super Bowls? I had no idea. So one other thing I was going to add to this too is that here's something very interesting. So this is a clip from NATO, and they're talking about using celebrities as to essentially like influence people. I know, shocking, like it never happens. And this is a clip from this. This is like a Fox News spot on it, but I just wanted to play the clip.
You came in here wanting to understand how you just go out there and counter an information operation.
Oh, I should share this with you guys so you guys can see it.
I was going to say, it's not showing in our screen.
Yeah, I'm not sharing the screen. Hold on, I'm sharing it now. Okay, here we go.
Listen. You came in here wanting to understand how you just go out there and counter an information operation. Well, the idea is that social influence can help encourage or promote behavior change, so potentially as like a peaceful information operation. I include Taylor Swift in here because she's she's a fairly influential online person. I don't know if you've heard of her.
Yeah, that's real.
Swift, covert operation. So now, okay, this, you might say this sounds ridiculous, but I don't think it is. It's really not that hard.
Haven't they been doing this with TikTok influence?
Yeah, they've been doing this with
small ones. Like they've been giving them undisclosed amounts to shill for the Biden administration. Why wouldn't they do it with larger influencers? And that's what she is at this point. I know she likes to think of herself as a pop star, but she's just an influencer at this point. That's what happens when you're in the pocket of the fucking Democrats.
Yeah. Well, the thing with Swift too is that I'll say this: I think that she's an unknowing participant in this. Like, if you can get so here's the thing about this poll. I think that there's some validity to it. I don't think it's 1/5 of the population, but I do think that it's more than 0 that would follow this endorsement. I think that people not just the Democrats, but mostly the Democrats have been using celebrities to influence young people's votes for decades and decades. I think that Taylor Swift, it could be made into an influential true believer. And, I saw somebody else talking about this, and they were saying like, they were using words to describe her support base as like, voters and potential voters. And I'm like, you mean women? Because let's be real, okay? Yeah. Most of Taylor Swift's Swifties are women. And that they're women that relate to her because, like her, they have made terrible life choices. I mean, she's still rich. I mean, and all that. I think she actually is not like a girl from the South. Apparently, she actually was, grew up in.
She's rich, but she doesn't seem happy. Have you seen?
Because
whenever they cut to a clip of her, be it at the Super Bowl or at the Oscars or whatever award ceremony, that guy, I forget his name. He was hosting this award ceremony, and he did this joke about how in sports events they're always flipping over to a reaction shot of Taylor Swift.
Sure.
At that very moment, they flipped to a reaction shot of Taylor Swift, and she's just sat there, fucking pinch face.
Yeah.
She really doesn't like any joke being made at her expense, even if it's not at her expense, even if it's at the expense of people who keep looking at her. And there's this one clip of a clip throwing over to her, and you can see her looking for a couple of seconds before she notices she's on the big screen, and you can see her mouthing the words, "Go away, please." her sense of humor has been lost to whatever hysteria is going on here, and in that sense I kind of feel for her, but at the same time I like if your sense of humor has been eroded to the point where you can't laugh at yourself, then I feel sorry for you, but at the same time I can't relate to you. Like,
yeah.
Your soul's been destroyed.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, for me, this isn't really about Taylor Swift. This is about, I think, the thing that's fascinating to me about it is that so many, let's just be real, women can be influenced by a popular woman into making, like, decisions that affect the entire country, if not the world, because so-and-so said so. I mean, it blows my mind. Like, that, is this what we would call a cult of personality? And also, considering her taste in men, why would they listen to her if she endorses Joe Biden? I mean, what? I just, it's sad because this is the point I think that we're at now, where if you want to win elections, it's not about policy. It's not about like your whether or not you have a track record, whether or not there's like something that you can demonstrate your competence. All it matters is, well, who's the famous woman, like, you know, that I like, that I idolize? What does she think? And then that woman could be anybody. I don't think Taylor Swift is like, you know, has any idea about things like political science or geopolitics or anything. She sings country songs about dudes that she can't seem to get along with. And other women just love her unconditionally. And I think a lot of that, too, is also artificially propped up, because another way you can propagandize people into following someone is to tell people that that someone is someone everyone wants to follow, even if there is no real evidence. It's like they're telling you, oh, yeah, so-and-so, everybody loves this person. And they just tell you over and over. And after a while, people are like, I guess everybody loves that person. So I guess it's real. It's like literally how Harvey Weinstein made women famous. They wouldn't get famous based on talent. He would say, I'm going to make you a star. And then he would make them a star. And he would use every resource at his disposal and put that person in your face. And, you know, I spoke to Lisa Brighton about that. She said that people in the entertainment business are not there because they're talented. They're there because they're looking to be exposed. If they get exposed enough, people see them and they say so-and-so is famous, and then they just start loving them. And I mean, like, not everybody, but a lot of people. And I think that women are a bit more prone to this kind of idolization. And it doesn't matter if she's talented. It doesn't matter if her music is good. It doesn't matter if her opinions are sound. And they know that. That's why they did it. I remember when Obama, I was talking to my wife about this, just we were driving home. And I was talking about how in 2008, when Obama was running, it was around, or just before that, the movie Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle was out. And these two guys were pretty famous. They were like on top of the world for a bit because the movie was very popular. Everybody watched it. I enjoyed it, right? It's a good like stoner film or whatever.
Funny.
And so the two stars, especially Kal Penn, they were pushing for Obama to win the election. It was like everywhere. And at the time, because I was younger, I was like, wow, he's a young guy that's in a movie I like, and he's telling me I should vote for so-and-so. I'm going to take that opinion seriously. I'm not going to look at anything. I'm not going to look at his policies. I'm not going to look at what he's running on. I don't know. All I know is that the brown guy likes him and he's black, so I'm going to vote for him. Just like Brendan Johnson, who is currently in the hospital for panic attacks because he couldn't handle 1%, less than 1% of the migrants being in Chicago. He couldn't handle it. But he got in there because he's black. He didn't get in there for any other reason because people said you have to vote for this guy. And this is what, like, people who can't get out of this herd thinking, someone like Taylor Swift or whoever it needs to be. It could easily be, you know, Jenna Ortega, Rachel Ziegler, or Brie Larson, if they were at all like tolerable. But they choose someone, and it's usually a woman, and they say, this is the it girl, and all the other women see the it girl, and they're all like, I want to be like her, and then they follow them, and then that girl says, you should believe these things, and then those women will believe those things. And that's how this works. This is mass psychology in action. And that's the main thing that I'm sort of taking away from this. So, yeah.
Well,
I don't care about the AI porn. I think that's stupid.
I'm going to point out, so the AI porn is a complete non-issue, and there doesn't need to be a law addressing it because there already is one. So the claim that people are getting away with using AI porn to intimidate or harass anybody is baloney. It's absolute bullshit, and there isn't actually a reason to create a new law to address this in the United States, because the United States already has, in the Violence Against Women Act, a definition of stalking that would apply to this. The definition of stalking that would apply to this says that anyone who is within or traveling within, so even if you're from another country, any part of the United States or anything that the United States has jurisdiction over, that if you, with intent to harass or intimidate another person or kill or injure, but I mean, if anybody that gets killed or injured by AI porn has some other things to worry about, but with intent to harass or intimidate another person, engages in just a course of conduct online that would be reasonably expected to cause substantial emotional distress to a person that they're targeting, or to their family, or to their, let's see, it says 3 different groups of people. So to an immediate family member or to their spouse is guilty of stalking and is subject to the penalties for stalking under the Violence Against Women Act. And that's pretty broad. That would cover using AI porn to target somebody for harassment or to stalk somebody. And anything else that it's being used for, if somebody creates it to keep for themselves, that's their problem. If they want to look at a fake version of you with your face on it and fantasize about it, the only difference between that and what people do in their heads, where they have fantasies about people that involve their own personal ideas and storylines and wishes and whatever, is that they have something to look at and they're not sharing it with the world. It's theirs. And I would imagine that a lot of that type of deep fake porn is going to be pretty fucking cringe.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
People won't want other people to know they made it, right? So honestly, they don't need a new law. And what they have done, like I'm looking right now at the bill for this, and it actually would cover the creation of parody images of people. It looks to me like this is
basically you can't use it to make fun of people in any way. Right. I mean, it's like this
is being used, this is being exploited to create a new way to criminalize political speech. And it has absolutely nothing to do with the image or the issue of harassment, or in particular sexual harassment, stalking, none of that. It is about crippling your ability to criticize and make fun of politicians and other public figures.
Yeah,
that is what that is for.
It's basically the fappening 2.0. You'll remember.
And the most
1.0 is already the stuff of nostalgia. Oh, Gamergate, what even were you?
Yeah, what even is that? It's and the most effective way to like get a bill like this even considered is to claim a woman as a victim of it. And not only will you get people looking at it for that reason, but you'll get women in general, because they all tend to think in a collectivist manner, thinking, oh, this could affect me, and then they all want to get on board. So I mean, they're not going to do this to a man. I understand that there is some political cartoons of Trump out there.
Yeah,
that are pretty disparaging, but he's not complaining.
What this says is anybody, and same stipulations in regard to where you are, so you have to be under the jurisdiction of the United States for this to apply. but anybody who with the intent to harass, annoy, threaten, alarm, or cause substantial harm to the finances or reputation of the depicted individual, or with actual knowledge that or reckless disregard for whether such disclosed or threatened disclosure will cause physical, emotional, reputational, or economic harm to the individual. That's so all of that basically is saying that if you upset someone by creating an image of them, and it doesn't specify like that it has to be something that you can't tell is fake without being told, and it does specify that disclosure is not a defense. So even if you put a disclosure up, a statement up that lets the individual know this is AI, it's intended for parody purposes, or this is satire, it still won't defend you against this law. So it's not about preventing AI porn. It's about preventing depictions of an individual that might upset them. Right? Make fun of harming someone's reputation can be interpreted very broadly as well. Ridiculing someone publicly for a political move that is bad, that is evil, or that is against the Constitution, that is cruel to the public and in some way, or anything like ridiculing an individual for that would fall under that. So now it does specify intimate digital depiction, but there's a lot of digitally created images that get thrown at you by Trump opponents if you are a Trump supporter, where it's obviously digitally created cartoon art that it exaggerates Trump's perceived flaws, and like
drawn with small
really
hands,
ugly stuff that but it's nude. They'll put it, because when you portray someone nude, it makes them vulnerable in the image, right? It's a portrayal of vulnerability. And so they gave a portrayal of ugly vulnerability of Trump. But nobody's going to complain about that, where they will complain about Swift. And this could be used to target any kind of imagery of an individual. It's not going to end up being limited to portrayals of nude images. And then, as soon as they get one foot in the door, it'll be all about political speech.
Yeah.
And it doesn't do anything that the existing laws basically already cover.
Yeah.
Like you said, it's not just that it's only an issue worth addressing when it happens to women. It's specifically A-list celebrity women, and like every other law proposed under such a gynocentric government, it will only be enforced when the victim is as close as can be to an A-list celebrity. Well, let's face it, it will only be enforced when the perpetrator is not part of the uniparty agenda. Not just a man, but not part of the uniparty agenda. George Soros and his crime family, allegedly, already bought the rights to Taylor Swift's music.
That's right.
Sooner or later, they'll buy the rights to her image. And then she might go ahead and die a mysteriously and untimely death, and you won't
and continue to make albums and music videos.
That looks weirdly generated, but you can't really tell which or another. But if you generate a Taylor Swift image, they will know about it because they know she's dead, and they know that anything they didn't generate must therefore not. Some people think this has already happened to Britney Spears, and that's why you only ever see these weird shots of her dancing around with knives. And I'm not sure I believe it, but stranger things have happened. We're rapidly heading into a future where the party can use AI to fabricate entire news stories out of whole cloth and get away with it, while everyone else will be banned from using AI for anything. In fact, even if non-party people provide real photographs or real footage, they'll still be arrested for using AI-generated images because someone accused them of it. Because after all, who can tell the difference?
Yeah.
The uniparty, that's who. They'll decide what is real and what's not. They pretty much already do. This is a woman because we say so. This is a transphobe because we say so. This is fascism because we say so. This is democracy because we say so.
Yes.
Once again, yes, this is a black pill, but
this is immigration because we say so.
Don't shoot the messenger just because you're deluding yourselves into thinking it won't happen. If it's going to happen, then it's going to happen because you were unprepared for the eventuality of it happening. And before you ask, I don't know how to fix it. Fucking, my job is ranting and making music, so I rant and make music on the topic of this shit happening. If your job is politics, then please do politics along the lines of the fact that this shit is happening. If you're a lawyer, then please lawyer a lot, bearing in mind that this shit is happening. Whatever skill you've developed in life, it's up to you to focus whatever you can on the fact that this shit is happening. Or don't. You don't have to. It's fine. Just, do whatever works for you. Do whatever makes you happy.
Yeah.
This is probably going to have to be challenged under freedom of speech law. Like it's somebody's going to have to end up getting arrested for this, and it does actually do one thing that VAWA doesn't do. It increases the penalties in specifically in regard to intimate digital depictions, which are nudes, lewds, basically. So in terms of that, somebody's going to have to come along and say this individual wasn't harmed. No money was taken from this individual, and that's a civil matter anyway. If you engage in stalking and harassment and it causes financial harm to somebody, that's a matter for a lawsuit. But yeah, deepfakes, they're going to end up having to address this in terms of whether or not your right to freedom of speech includes a right to publicly imagine what somebody might look like naked.
Yeah.
And create depictions of it. And it's not, what's really funny about this is imagery like that wasn't created by AI, but has been created by human efforts, has existed for decades. It's existed before things like Photoshop. It's existed prior to the availability of computer-assisted creation of art, video editing, drawing, and so on. Like, people have been drawing pictures, photorealistic pictures of other people, what they might look like nude. People have used various means to create this, and of course there's been like Rule 34 of everything, because that's what it is, right? If it exists, there's porn of it. That's been a thing since before any of these abilities to assist have existed, and yet now people are upset about it. You should be suspicious when something exists for a long time, but suddenly now that somebody wants to impose a new limitation on your ability to use depictions of somebody in a particular way, to criticize government figures and so on, that now they want you to be upset about it. Right? Why shouldn't you be upset about it 20, 30, 40 years ago?
Yeah. All right, well, let us know what you guys think about this one in the comments. It's time that we wrap the show up. So we're going to go into the patron show, and we're going to be looking at this article from Arwa Madawi. If anyone can get the U.S. government to take deepfake porn seriously, it's Swifties. And that's true. So she might be right about something, but you'll have to join us to find out how right she is. So do that. Go to feedthebadger.com, set up a monthly subscription. $5 a month will get you into our Discord, and you'll be able to watch all the additional content. If you just want to check the Discord out, go to badgernation.online and help us achieve our fundraising goal so that I can continue to do what I'm doing as producer, animating these little cartoons and like getting the stories together and herding the cats and all of that. So, you know, that'd be great. I'd like to continue to live on this planet and see where it all goes. So feedthebadger.com to support us, and we're gonna go into the patron show now. So if you guys like this video, please smash like, subscribe if you're not already subscribed, hit the bell for notifications, leave us a comment, let us know what you guys think about what we discussed on the show today. Links are in the description to all of the stories, and please share this video because sharing is caring. Thanks so much for coming on today's episode of HBR News, and we'll talk to you all in the next video.
Are machines, dude. Okay, they are literal machines. They are talking point machines. They are impossible to fucking deal with, especially if you have like a couple dudes who have good memory on top of that too. Holy shit, you're fucked.
It's a question for the ages. Hi, Mr. 0303.
Hello.